And welcome back to the HealthyLife.net News at 7, Business and Finance, Opinions and Observations today. And we have one of the co-vestor executives with us today, Zach Miller. And Zach, among other things, is here to talk to us about his new book today, which is our recent book called Tradestream, Your Way to Profits, Building a Killer Portfolio in the Age of Social Media. And obviously, with people out there on Facebook, Twitter, and all of the other sites that are coming up, all the technology is up. We're in some interesting times. I kind of think back to the 90s when the Internet was brand new, .com was a big thing. Kind of fast forward to that now, the Internet was all about reaching people globally, and now it's using the same technology to reach people more in a local area. And now we're doing things on our mobile phones, so we've almost come full circle. And to talk a lot of this information and some of the ins and outs and help you maybe navigate your way through this new technological age of social media is Zach Miller. Zach, welcome to the HealthyLife.net News at 7 today.
Thanks for having me on, Jay.
Very happy to have you here. Now, Zach, that's kind of where we're at now. 15, 20 years ago, the .com boom happened. Websites are the brand new thing. And now we're sort of facing almost a resurgence of that where the social media is like the new thing. I know LinkedIn just went on an IPO within the last couple of weeks. I think Pandora's ready to go out there, one of the big music servers, and plenty of other stuff. So what is going on nowadays with this?
Well, originally it was all about eyeballs, and now it's all about data. And I think we're in an era of I call it a bull market in financial content. There's just so much out there. People are using this to essentially what's called life streaming. People take all their daily activities, and they're streaming them through Facebook, streaming them through Twitter. They're also doing that financially now, which is different than where we were 20 years ago. So a lot of the same information, trading information, what they're buying, what they're selling, what stocks they like, what research they're seeing, they're trade streaming that through the Internet as well. And so astute investors can sort of follow and plug into that information and actually make money doing it.
Yeah, for instance, you might follow somebody who might give away an inside tip to somebody just maybe talking to a friend on one of these sites, correct?
Sure. I mean, that's one user case. Another user case is actually professional investors using it not only to listen in on what's going on around stocks, the chatter, but also providing their own research outtakes, and you can plug into those guys as well. There's just a tremendous amount of public information at this point.
Oh, that really is, especially when kind of people give their opinions and you have a quicker way to, weigh those opinions where previously you maybe had to wait for next week's edition of, Financial Trade magazine to reach you.
This is totally real time, and what's happening is you're getting both sides of the case, right? So originally, like you said, if you're reading the Wall Street Journal, you get a positive piece on the stock. What's happening online is you're getting the bull and bear case, and it's ultimately up to the investor to weigh those two.
And with so many of these social media sites and technological companies, there's a lot of components that maybe fit or cross a lot. Where you look at a company like Google, obviously a huge search engine giant. They have the Android platform, so there's a lot of different fingers they have their pies into, and obviously that goes to your investment data for a company that you might want to look at.
That's great. So, I mean, one of the strategies I read about in the book is using Google search data. So Google actually provides a lot of data on their aggregated search trends, right? So you can plug in and decide, if you're interested in investing in the auto industry, Google is aggregating all the terms that surround auto buying and then overlay that over some of the industry stock prices. So you can actually get a feel for whether, there's an increase in whether an increase in search trends for buying will actually lead to an increase in stock prices in the auto industry.
No, that's definitely helpful, and it might, lead you down the road to a specific, auto part or a specific new trend showing up in the industry, correct?
For sure. There's a professor who recently moved to the University of California at San Diego, Joey Engelberg, who used to be at UNC, who actually studied the connection between Google search trends and the stock prices in the future. And he found that there was not only correlation but causation. So a lot of this data, which is inherently non-financial in nature, can be used as a financial input into portfolio decisions.
No, that's very informative and very, not necessarily new, but just the onslaught of information available at a moment's notice where, as we mentioned previously, you might have to, get a few editions of your favorite trade magazine. We're talking today with Zach Miller on the HealthyLife.net News at 7. He's a co-vestor executive and the author of a book called Tradestream, Your Way to Profits, Building a Killer Portfolio in the Age of Social Media. And that's just been recently published by Wiley and Company. Now, Zach, I'm kind of interested in some of these, kind of back to the .com comparison and the social media sites where, like a site like LinkedIn just came on, had an initial offering, sort of had an up and down, and some of the other companies like Pandora's another one coming up next. What are some of the just thoughts on Wall Street about these sites in general, these social media sites that maybe is similar or different from what the perception was years ago with the .com sites coming in?
Right. So the early .com era was sort of signified by eyeballs, right? And it was always the promise of future profits. The difference with the companies that are going public now is these ones that made it through, the past decade, they're real companies and have real revenues. And, we saw, at least with the LinkedIn offering, that it rocketed upwards. It's since sold off somewhat. But Wall Street is still sort of trying to figure out exactly what this model means, right? The earnings power in some of these companies is still different, still much more accelerated, much more leveraged than the traditional companies Wall Street is used to dealing with.
No, and that's a great way to look at it, where obviously the .com were obviously betting on the future, where, these companies are viable and they're probably only going to get bigger, where, they become definitely ingrained into our lifestyle and how we're using them, in addition to, using them for fun, using them for business, communication, and so many other things. So what are a couple of the things that you might want to share with us that might be not talked about quite yet, but some trends that we might want to keep an eye for the future, something that's developing, maybe what we'd fall under some guru tips, Zach?
So one of the things I talk about in the book as sort of an indicator of what future trends in the financial industry is what I call like the app store for investing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you use an iPhone or any Mac products, Apple sort of, I don't know if they started it, but they definitely made it work, where you can just have access to third-party software at a click. That's beginning to happen now in the investment industry. There are a few sites like Seeking Alpha, and even the online brokers like E-Trade or Ameritrade are opening up their platforms to allow third-party content and software creation on their platforms. And what that's doing is allowing tremendous innovation on the software side. Also, they're providing an access channel to the end investor, which to date you always had to go through the online investors. So investors should expect to see over the next couple of years just an onslaught of different tools to help them make more informed decisions.
And with that being said, there obviously is a possibility of some of these innovators and entrepreneurs inventing these new tools. Those might be companies that might be someone to look into.
For sure. We're seeing a whole new – what happened was a lot of the initial .coms that focused on trying to revolutionize the financial industry failed, partly because they thought they could revolutionize as opposed to evolutionize. And people have stopped sort of – there was a decade of really no innovation. And what's happened in this next round of .com startups and the fundings that are happening is we're seeing sort of a resurgence of the people trying to at least incrementally change the way we invest.
Yeah, that definitely seems, for lack of a better perspective, maybe we, sort of learn from our mistakes a little bit more this time around.
I would say so. I mean, the financial industry is not monolithic, but it's definitely slow to change. So if you want to go about it, you have to do it incrementally. And we're seeing startups sort of choose sort of bite-sized pieces of that market to try to change and to create either more efficiencies or create new ways of doing things. It's a slow process, but I think we're gearing up for another bull market in financial startups.
Yeah, and I definitely, obviously, this is not something that's going to go away. The projection of just tablets, the next year or two is going to be, something like 150 million sold. Seems like all the companies are coming out with them. A lot of other companies are, again, third-party app companies are being involved in a lot of this too. So it's obviously a new market for people to look into if they are looking into the investment game. And Zach Miller, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you have a lot of meetings with a lot of big folks this week, but thank you for making time to be with us on the News at 7 to talk about your your book, Tradestream Your Way to Profits, Building a Killer Portfolio in the Age of Social Media. Zach, is there a website or a best place for people to find this? Obviously, local bookstores, probably Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com?
Yeah, Amazon is the key place. I also have a website called Tradestreaming.com, where I not only talk about a lot of the content that's in the book, but I dig a little bit deeper. And I actually have a podcast where I interview a lot of the innovators in this industry as well.
All right. Well, that sounds like that's easy to access information and probably something that our business-savvy investors in the audience might want to bookmark because obviously this is not going to go away. It's not like the apps and social media is going to take a reverse turn. So, Zach Miller, thank you once again for being with us today on the HealthyLife.net News at 7.
Jay, always a pleasure. Thank you.